Imagine for a moment that your soul, before you were even born, carefully chose the family you would be born into. It wasn't random or chaotic, but deliberate, like an artist crafting a masterpiece. Your soul looked at this life, saw the challenges ahead, and said, "This is where I will grow. This is where I will awaken." Yet here you are now, questioning why you ended up in a family that sometimes feels like a battlefield, wondering why you were raised in an environment that seemed to chip away at your spirit instead of protecting it. If you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. Many of us have been there, scratching our heads, trying to make sense of it all. Let's get one thing straight. Being born into a toxic family isn't punishment. It's not karma coming back to haunt you. Instead, it's a gift, a monumental, life-altering, paradigm-shifting gift. Now I know what you're thinking. How could something so painful possibly be a gift? That's exactly what we're going to explore together today. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see your struggles in a completely new light. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want more profound spiritual lessons like this one. And hey, while you're at it, tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of these transformative messages from the universe. Toxic families are like fire. They burn, they hurt, and they leave scars. But just like fire, they also forge. They temper your soul like steel, stripping away illusions about life being easy or fair. They force you to confront the raw, unfiltered truth of the human condition. Think about it. What better training ground could there be for someone destined to break cycles? You weren't born to live a normal life. No, you were born to transcend. So why would your soul choose such a challenging path? Let's dig deeper. The toxicity in your family isn't random. It's ancestral, generational. It's the accumulation of unhealed wounds, unspoken truths, and unconscious patterns passed down through your lineage. And guess what? You were born to stop it. Let that sink in for a moment. You weren't born to fit in. You were born to stand out. You're here to rise above, to heal. Not just yourself, but the generations that came before you, and those yet to come. That's what makes you a chosen one. But here's the hard part. To break a cycle, you first have to experience it. You can't heal what you don't understand, and you can't rise above what you haven't faced. That's why you were placed right in the middle of the storm, not to drown, but to learn how to swim, not to suffer, but to awaken. Take a good look at your family. What do you see? Anger, neglect, manipulation, control? Now ask yourself, where do you see that same energy within yourself? Toxic families don't just wound us. They mirror us. They show us the parts of ourselves we're too afraid to face. And that's why it's a gift. In the fire of your family's dysfunction, you're given the opportunity to see yourself clearly, to heal yourself, and ultimately, to transform yourself. As you do this work, you're not just transforming yourself, you're transforming the entire lineage. But let's not sugarcoat it. Being born into a toxic family is one of the hardest paths a soul can choose. It requires immense strength, resilience, and courage. It means facing rejection, betrayal, and sometimes even abandonment. Here's the key question. What would happen if you stopped fighting your family and started seeing them as your greatest teachers? What if their toxicity wasn't a reflection of your worth, but rather a reflection of their pain? What if their inability to love you the way you deserve wasn't because you're unlovable, but because they don't know how to love themselves? This shift in perspective changes everything. When you stop seeing your family as the enemy and start seeing them as wounded souls, doing the best they can with what they have, something magical happens. Instead of asking, "Why are they hurting me?" you start asking, "What are they teaching me?" That's when you begin to unlock the gift. The toxicity in your family isn't your burden to carry. It's your invitation to heal. It's your chance to remember who you truly are beyond their projections, expectations, and pain. It's your call to step into your power as a chosen one. Here's the catch, though. You can't heal your family directly. The only person you can truly heal is yourself. And when you do, you create a ripple effect that transforms everything around you. Let me share something deeply personal with you. When I was younger, I thought that if I could just be good enough, successful enough, or strong enough, I could fix my family. I thought I could save them. But the more I tried, the more I realized that saving them wasn't my job. My job was to save myself, to break free from the patterns that were keeping me stuck. And as I did, something miraculous happened. The family dynamics began to shift, not because I forced them to, but because I changed. That's the power of being a chosen one. You don't have to fight the darkness, you just have to shine your light. So what does it mean to shine your light in the face of darkness? What does it mean to love yourself when no one else does? What does it mean to choose peace when chaos surrounds you? These are the questions you must answer on your journey. And here's the most beautiful part. The moment you stop seeing your family as a curse and start seeing them as a gift, everything changes. The moment you stop resisting your path and start embracing it, you step into your power. Because the truth is, you weren't born into a toxic family to be broken. You were born into it to rise, to heal, to awaken. There's something extraordinary that happens when a soul is placed in the midst of chaos, dysfunction, and pain. The wounds inflicted by a toxic family don't just leave scars. They leave openings. Openings for light to pour in, for awareness to awaken, for transformation to begin. But here's the paradox. Before you can see the gift, you have to confront the wound. And that's where most people get stuck. They resist the pain, fight it, run from it. But pain, especially the kind born from family, isn't something you can outrun. It's something you must face head on. Think about the wounds you carry from your family. Maybe you were criticized so often that you began to doubt your own worth. Maybe you were ignored so thoroughly that you started to believe your voice didn't matter. Maybe you were controlled so intensely that you forgot how to trust yourself. Or maybe the love you craved came with conditions, and you learned to equate love with performance, approval, or sacrifice. These wounds are real. They hurt, they shape you, but they are also the catalyst for your awakening. Every wound carries a lesson. Every scar carries a story. And every pain carries the potential for growth. Let me ask you this. When you think about the pain your family has caused you, what emotions come up? Is it anger, resentment, sadness? Now go deeper. What are those emotions teaching you about yourself? You see, chosen ones aren't just here to heal their families. They're here to heal themselves. And the healing process begins when you realize that the pain inflicted upon you isn't about you. It's about them, their wounds, their fears, their limitations. Somewhere along the way, you internalized it. You made it about you. You took on their pain as your own. That's where the real work begins. Separating yourself from the story your family has written for you. Reclaiming your identity, your worth, your power. But how do you heal from wounds that run so deep they feel like part of your DNA? How do you break free from patterns that have been passed down for generations? It starts with awareness. Awareness that the way your family treated you is not a reflection of your value. Awareness that their toxicity is not your destiny. Awareness that you are not here to repeat the cycle. You're here to end it. Awareness is just the first step, though. The real transformation happens when you take responsibility, not for their actions, but for your healing. Here's something profound. The moment you stop waiting for your family to change, the moment you stop waiting for them to apologize, validate you, or love you the way you deserve, that's the moment you set yourself free. Because here's the hard truth. Some people will never change. Some wounds will never be acknowledged. Some apologies will never come. And that's okay. Your healing doesn't depend on them. It depends on you. Ask yourself this. What would it look like to forgive your family? Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. What would it feel like to release the anger, the resentment, the bitterness? Not because it excuses their behavior, but because it frees you from carrying the weight of it. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's not about condoning. It's about saying, I will no longer allow your actions to define me. I will no longer allow your pain to become my pain. I will no longer allow your toxicity to dictate my life. And that's where the gift becomes clear. As you heal, you awaken. As you release the pain, you remember your power. As you break free from the patterns of your family, you step into the fullness of who you are. Healing isn't linear, though. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. There will be days when the weight of your family's dysfunction feels unbearable. There will be moments when you question whether you're strong enough to break the cycle. And in those moments, I want you to remember this. You were chosen for this path, not because it's easy, but because you're capable. Not because you deserve to suffer, but because you're here to transform suffering into strength, pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom. Let me ask you this. What if the very things you see as your weaknesses, the scars left by your family, are actually your greatest strengths? What if the rejection taught you self-love? What if the neglect taught you independence? What if the pain taught you compassion? That's the alchemy of the chosen ones. We take the darkness we were born into and turn it into light. We take the pain we were handed and turn it into purpose. We take the cycles we inherited and transform them into liberation. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone who comes after us. Your healing isn't just about you. When you heal your entire lineage. When you break free, you show others that freedom is possible. When you step into your power, you give others permission to step into theirs. That's why toxic families are a gift. Not because the pain is justified, but because the pain has purpose, and that purpose is awakening. Now, before we dive deeper into the practical steps you can take to break free and step into your power, I want to remind you to subscribe to this channel. These messages are gifts from the universe, and I don't want you to miss any of them. Also, watch this video until the end, because YouTube recommends videos based on engagement, and I want this message to reach as many people as possible. If this video found its way to you, it's no accident. Share this experience with someone who's struggling, someone who needs to hear this word. Be a channel of blessing in someone else's life. Freedom, true freedom, isn't about running away from your family or cutting ties. It's not about escaping the physical presence of those who've hurt you. You can move to another country, change your phone number, block them on social media, but if you haven't dealt with the internal wounds, their influence will still linger. The chains that bind you aren't external, they're internal. They're the beliefs you've absorbed, the patterns you've inherited, and the stories you tell yourself about who you are because of how they treated you. True freedom is when their words no longer control you, Their dysfunction no longer defines you, and their toxicity no longer limits you. So, what does it take to achieve this kind of freedom? It starts with a single powerful decision. The decision to stop living in reaction to your family and start living in alignment with your truth. This isn't easy. It requires you to confront the deeply ingrained habits and thought patterns that have shaped your life for years, maybe even decades. But here's the good news. You don't have to do it all at once. Healing is a journey, not a destination. And like any journey, it begins with small steps. The first step is awareness. You need to become aware of the patterns, beliefs, and stories that are keeping you stuck. Ask yourself, what patterns from my family am I unconsciously repeating in my own life? What beliefs about myself did I inherit from their words or actions? What stories am I telling myself about who I am because of the way they treated me? For example, maybe you grew up in a family where love was conditional, given only when you achieved something or met certain expectations. Now, as an adult, you find yourself constantly striving for perfection, chasing external validation, believing that your worth is tied to your achievements. Or maybe you grew up in a household where your voice didn't matter, where your feelings were dismissed, your ideas ignored. Now you struggle to speak up, doubting your intuition, suppressing your truth. These patterns, beliefs, and stories are the invisible chains that keep you tied to your family's toxicity. Until you identify them, you can't break free. Awareness is just the beginning, though. The next step is healing. And healing isn't about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you were before the wounds. It's about peeling back the layers of conditioning, stripping away the false narratives, and reconnecting with the truth of who you are. Healing is messy, uncomfortable, and non-linear. It's a process of unlearning everything you thought you knew about yourself and rebuilding from the ground up. And it requires three things: self-love, self-compassion, and self-discipline. Self-love is the foundation. It's the radical act of choosing yourself, even when no one else does. It's honoring your needs, setting boundaries, and recognizing your inherent worth, regardless of how your family treated you. Self-love means understanding that you are enough just as you are, without needing to prove anything to anyone. But let's be honest, self-love isn't always easy, especially if you've been conditioned to believe you're unworthy. That's where self-compassion comes in. Self-compassion is the gentle voice that says, it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to not have it all figured out. It reminds you that healing is a journey, not a destination, and that you don't have to do it perfectly. Then there's self-discipline, because healing is hard work. It requires you to show up for yourself every day, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's painful, even when it feels like nothing is changing. It demands that you make choices aligned with your highest self, even when the old patterns are calling you back. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you lived every day as though you were worthy of love, respect, and happiness? What choices would you make? What boundaries would you set? What relationships would you let go of? Breaking free isn't about changing your family. It's about changing yourself. It's about stepping out of the role they cast you in and stepping into the truth of who you are. But here's the deeper truth. Breaking free doesn't mean abandoning your family. It doesn't mean cutting them off or refusing to speak to them unless that's truly necessary for your well-being. Breaking free means detaching from their energy, their expectations, their narratives. It means loving them from a place of wholeness, not obligation. It means seeing them for who they are, flawed, wounded, imperfect human beings, and choosing to rise above their pain instead of being consumed by it. And here's the most beautiful part. As you heal, you become a mirror. You reflect back to your family what's possible. You show them that transformation is possible, that freedom is possible, that love is possible. You may never hear them say it, but your healing will inspire them. Your light will awaken something in them, even if they don't know how to express it. What if your greatest act of love for your family isn't fixing them, but becoming the fullest, freest version of yourself? What if your healing is the very thing that plants the seed of change in them, even if it takes years or lifetimes to bloom? This is the path of the chosen ones. It's not an easy path. It's not a glamorous path, but it's a path of purpose, a path of transformation, a path of liberation. So as we come to the end of this journey together, I want to leave you with this. Your family's toxicity is not your destiny. It's your training ground. It's the fire that forges you. It's the soil in which your soul grows. Every time you choose to rise above it, every time you choose to heal, every time you choose to love yourself in the face of their dysfunction, you are fulfilling your purpose as a chosen one. You were not born into a toxic family by accident. You were born into it because you were strong enough to transcend it, wise enough to learn from it, brave enough to heal it. And as you walk this path, remember, you are not alone. There are millions of chosen ones out there, just like you, breaking cycles, healing wounds, and rewriting their destinies. Together, we are creating a new world, one where love, compassion, and truth are the foundation. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. These messages are gifts from the universe, and I don't want you to miss any of them. Also, watch this video until the end, because YouTube recommends videos based on engagement, and I want this message to reach as many people as possible. If this video found its way to you, it's no accident. Share this experience with someone who's struggling, someone who needs to hear this word. Be a channel of blessing in someone else's life.